Welcome to Small Town Whispers, where history, folklore, and the paranormal collide. I'm Bethany Yukis Borden, and I lived in Watseka, Illinois from 1988 to 1999. For over a decade, I walked the same streets, saw the same houses, and even had friends connected to the story we're about to dive into. This isn't just history for me, it's personal. Welcome back to Small Town Whispers. Thanks for being here with me again. We just finished up the seance at the house, and as in any town something like that happens in, there is an aftermath. The gossip, the whispers, the rumors, and even more. So let's get back into the story. Word of the seance at the Roff home spread quickly through Watseka, stirring more fear than fascination. Soon, Lavinia Durst, one of the town's most outspoken citizens, gathered 7 local women at her home. She began by insisting that Mary Roff should not be allowed to roam the streets. The women sympathized with Anne and cared for the Roffs, but their conversation quickly turned to darker possibilities. What if someone was stabbed? What if Mary got her hands on a rifle? And of course, the question that no one wanted to ask out loud, was the devil involved? They wondered why the mayor was doing nothing, especially since he'd been at the seance himself, and why Reverend Dill was participating at all. When someone finally asked, "Well, what can we do?" Lavinia produced a petition she had secretly drafted. It demanded that Mary be formally committed. Between February and March of 1865, she circulated it slowly, never letting it out of her sight. More women than men signed. The men feared Asa's influence and worried he would retaliate through business or politics if he discovered their names. Nothing appeared in the newspaper. The editor, who had also been present at the seance, kept quiet at the request of Asa and the mayor. Anne began noticing the change immediately. Women turned away from her in the street. She wasn't invited to the Fenner family's party because Mary was the main subject of whispered debate. The Roffs stopped attending church, leaving Anne without the Thursday sewing circle or the Sunday night covered dish supper, her usual sources for community and gossip. All the while, a cruel nickname spread through town, Mad Mary. Then came April 9th, Palm Sunday, and with it, the sound of church bells ringing out across Watseka. General Grant had met with General Lee. The war was finally over. The entire town poured into the streets in celebration, and the Roffs joined them. Lucy walked with the family, rejoicing with everyone else, though part of her wished someone there looked like her and understood what this day really meant for people of color. Crowds gathered, and windows glowed with lamplight as the marching band tuned up. When the mayor arrived, he was greeted with cheers. Spotting Asa in the crowd, he urged him up onto the platform. Music played, people sang, and the town celebrated long into the evening. But not everyone was celebrating. Lucy suddenly felt a chill and turned to find Lavinia Durst standing just 10 feet away, staring at Mary with open contempt. Mary followed her gaze. Days earlier, at the butcher shop, Lucy had overheard Lavinia using the name Mad Mary Roff, and she had seen a piece of paper in her hand almost completely covered with signatures. She couldn't read it, but she knew who would know, so on her way home, Lucy stopped to ask Blind Annie what it was. Annie explained that it was a petition against Mary, one she had refused to sign. Instead, she went straight to the Roff home and warned them. She had told Mary, too. As the evening went on, Asa prepared to speak after the mayor, the police chief, and the newspaper editor. Children wandered off in boredom, and when Anne asked Lucy to find the youngest boys, she went searching through the crowd. Mary stood behind her mother and sister, waiting for her father to take the stage. And that is where we return to Watseka, America's most extraordinary case of possession and exorcism, on page 93, bringing us very close to the end of part 1. Asa spoke of the nation being united again, and what that would mean as far as getting mail to the South and hearing from loved ones who had been cut off by Confederate politics. Anne turned and asked if Mary was warm enough. Mary said she was. After Asa spoke, 3 young men who had fought in the war and who had been shipped back to Watseka minus parts of their bodies got up on the platform to tell the crowd of the horrors of war. They were cheered, and you could have heard a pin drop when they related their experiences on the battlefield. "That Davis boy is very handsome, even without his arm," said Nervy over her shoulder to Mary. "He'd make you a good husband." Nervy laughed and waited for Mary to comment on her joke. Benny Davis had not been attractive when he enlisted, and losing his arm had only made him more so. Instead of a reply, there was silence. Nervy turned to her sister, but Mary wasn't there. "Ma, Mary's gone!" Anne turned quickly and gave a small cry. "Where'd she go?" "She was standing right here. Why didn't you keep an eye on her?" "She was just here a minute ago," Nervy said. "She couldn't have gotten far." Nervy stood on tiptoes and tried to stare over the heads and hats around her. "I don't see her," she said. "See if she's on the curbstone. Maybe she got tired and went to sit down." "Did she go with Lucy?" Nervy asked, even though she knew Lucy had gone alone. Anne shook her head. "Go find her, please." As Nervy started away from her, Anne reached out and touched her sleeve. "Don't cause a scene, Nervy." Minerva knew what she meant. When the 3 veterans finished, the Baptist minister offered up a prayer that peace would last and be just for both sides. The band struck up "Glory, Glory, Hallelujah," and while many cheered, others just stood with tears in their eyes. Then the crowd began to break up, friends talking with friends, others shaking hands, farmers heading for their buggies, and children being herded off toward home and bed. When Asa rejoined Anne, she told him Mary was missing. She said it in a soft voice and with a smile on her face. After the seance, people looked at the Roffs in a new light, and she knew people were watching her now. She didn't want to let these strangers know any more than she absolutely had to. "Nervy's gone to look for her. Lucy and the boys are over on the other corner." "How did you let her get out of your sight?" he asked, smiling. They had rehearsed their public appearances as if they were visiting royalty. He waved to a friend who had tipped his hat in his direction. "It was your responsibility to watch her," he said under his breath. "Now God only knows where she has gone." Lucy, standing on the corner shepherding the 4 boys, was grim. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Anne, but you did tell me to fetch the boys. I thought Mary would be all right with you for a few minutes." "You hush now," Anne said, still smiling. "It's not your fault. Nervy and I should never have turned our backs on her. You take the boys on home and watch carefully as you go. Perhaps Mary went that way." Lucy herded the 4 boys up to the end of 4th Street where the Roff home stood. By peering through the just budding tree branches, Lucy could see the lantern light in the upper bedroom window. She never went out at night without leaving that light on. It was a beacon, drawing the family home, and an amulet, keeping enemies away. Anne and Nervy started walking down Walnut Street toward the place where the railroad tracks crossed the old road that led into Middleport. Asa went across Walnut and down into the railroad yard. Mary liked the large depot and sometimes would chat with the station master. Perhaps she had gone there to rest on the long wooden benches inside the large, warm waiting room. Lavinia Durst walked 3 blocks with Sarah Thayer, chatting about the end of the war and what it would mean to certain people in town. She would have discussed seeing Mad Mary at the gathering, but Sarah didn't have time for more gossip. She turned to the right, and Lavinia went left. The double-globed parlor lantern in the window was still glowing. She always left it on when she went out. Lavinia pushed open the front door and went inside. She hadn't locked it when she left. Few people in Watseka locked their doors. She hung her long cloth coat in the closet built under the staircase and walked into the front parlor. There had been so much excitement tonight that she wasn't quite ready for bed. Maybe she would read some more of Moods, that new novel by Louisa May Alcott, and have a cup of tea. Walking into the dark kitchen, she groped for the match safe attached just inside the doorway and struck one to light the wall lamp. She raised the wick a little, and the flame grew brighter, illuminating the room, and illuminating the figure of Mary Roff sitting at her kitchen table. Lavinia put her hands to her mouth but couldn't scream. She heard the noise inside her but couldn't force it from her throat.
I was wondering how long it would take you to get back here, old woman.
Mary uttered the words, but it wasn't Mary's voice. Lavinia stood stock still.
I thought I'd drop in for a cup of tea. You have been wanting to meet me, so I thought I'd save you the trouble.
Lavinia's strength started to return. "You get out of my house, Mary Roff," she commanded. "Get out before I have to call your father." Mary looked over her shoulder.
I don't see nobody here named Mary. Don't try your tricks, old woman. I've been on to you for a long time.
"Now, Mary Roff, you get. Do you hear me? You get out of here."
I'll get when I'm good and ready. I've come for a chat. You know why I'm here. You've been causing lots of trouble, old lady, and I aim to find out why.
Lavinia backed against the wall, wishing she were nearer the kitchen sink where she kept her knives. "You aren't going to hurt me none, are you?" she asked.
I should churn you into a grease spot. You'd do the same to me if you had a chance. You've already gone too far, fooling around with that poor girl.
Lavinia was stalling for time to think. What girl?
The poor Roff child. The one you have been mean-mouthing all over town. You think I don't know about it? I've heard you telling folks she should be put away. If anybody should be put away, it's you.
Mary got up and walked toward Lavinia, who was shaking under her long skirts.
You leave that girl alone. Do you hear me? She belongs to me, not to you. Do harm to your own kin, but not to mine.
"I don't know what you're talking about," said Lavinia, her courage coming and going in waves. "I think you're crazy, and I want you to clear out of here."
Crazy? That's what you'd all like to believe. Every time something happens, they come running to Katrina Hogan, accusing me of being crazy or being a witch, or even worse. Now you leave me alone and you leave my girl alone.
"I think you're crazy," said Lavinia. "You're as crazy as a bedbug, Mary Roff. And I'm going to see that you get locked up good and proper, locked up and the key thrown into the Iroquois River." Mary lunged at her, but Lavinia had anticipated it and ducked. She twisted and managed to get to the sink. Mary came after her as Lavinia kicked a kitchen chair. It fell and Mary fell on top of it.
You bitch!
She howled, and as she started to rise, Lavinia kicked her in the side. Mary groaned and fell back onto the floor. Lavinia kicked her again, but this time Mary grabbed the hem of her skirt and started pulling the woman down. Lavinia began screaming and resisting the force of Mary's grip. There was a ripping sound, and the lower half of Lavinia's skirt was torn off. The older woman stepped over Mary's body and ran for the front door. Suddenly, propriety entered her mind. She couldn't go outside with her skirt missing. Mary got up and came charging after her. Lavinia was up the stairs and into the first bedroom by the time Mary figured out where she had gone. The girl thundered up after her. Lavinia, known for not being anyone's fool, opened a door on the other side of the bedroom, a door that pulled inward and opened out onto a small summer porch with a high railing. She hid behind the door, and the moonlight caught Mary's attention as she came into the room. She dashed across the room and out onto the upper porch. The second she stood there, startled to find herself outside and alone, was all the time Lavinia needed to slam the door shut and to slide in the heavy wooden crossbar. The bar had been installed to keep the winter winds from rattling the door. It was thick, so no matter how hard Mary pounded it, it would not give in. Lavinia changed her dress, combed her hair, and went first to the sheriff. Then she went to Asa Roff. Then she went to Sarah Thayer's to sob out her story and ask for overnight protection. What happened was not a seance or a misunderstanding. Mary crossed a line no one in Watseka believed she would ever cross. She entered Lavinia Durst's home and confronted her with the voice of Katrina Hogan about the petition and the plan to have Mary locked in an asylum. The question was no longer if something was happening to Mary, it was whether anyone in Watseka was still in control of it. The end of part 1 is coming next week, an ending no one could predict, one that changes everything. But before we go there, I want to step away from the book and return to the house itself. In October, I stayed for 2 nights in the Roff home. Periodically, I would pull out my phone and my Zoom mic and make recordings. What I captured wasn't dramatic in the way movies make things dramatic. I didn't realize I'd captured anything at all till we got back to Wilmington. I just thought I had a couple mic issues. Some of what you're about to hear was recorded right inside the Roff home.
Now, join me under the porch light, the place where memories meet the present and voices from the past still linger in the dark. Tonight, we listen, not to the pages from a book, but to the people who have felt the unexplained and found the courage to share it. Welcome to Porchlight Whispers.
This house has been making me think a lot of my grandparents' house on Cherry Street. There's a lot of similar features like the wooden curved banister that's pretty intricate with the wood stairs. There's a back staircase with obvious servants' quarters. The basement looks a lot like it. It's almost like in the basement they just knocked cement walls out, and it's very low down there. But I didn't get any creepy vibes in the basement yet. I have gotten a little bit of creepy vibes in the back servant staircase, but I really think it's just because the door looks really old. I haven't heard anything weird. The main thing that took us off guard was at one point we were upstairs in the bedroom and there's this cool, it's like a door, but it's like it's cut in half. There's a top half and a bottom half, and you can open the top half separately from the bottom. So we had the top half of it open, kind of like if you'd open a window, and we were looking out at the view, and all of a sudden we looked up and there were 3 ladybugs on the ceiling. A couple minutes later, there were 5, so we shut the door so they wouldn't keep coming in. The cool thing is that the ladybug is a sign between my son Gavin and I, so first of all, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a sign. I wrote the host, the guy who owns the house, and did say, do you guys happen to see many ladybugs around here? And he said they do, and he just sprayed for them today, and it's like this invasive Chinese lady beetle or something, and I don't know, but might not have seemed like quite as much of a sign, but I think it still was. Chris was alone in the house for a little bit, and he mainly said there's a lot of sounds, and he accumulated it so far to the settling of the house and the wind. We will see tonight. I don't feel too scared yet. I'm trying to stay brave and in the moment and just let things happen and be without me or my mind getting in the way. You guys heard that right. So as I was talking about being scared, that weird feedback noise came in, and I thought it was just a microphone issue. I saw it happening during the sound waves as I was making my recording on my phone. That led me to go to a different room to test the mic and check out what happened there. Is there anyone here? Is something messing with my microphone? Or my phone? What are you doing to my microphone? Seriously. Say something instead. about a little boop boop? Or a beep? Can you make a sound? All right, well, it looks like it's working now. In that recording, I was sitting upstairs in this room with a TV in it. I was on the couch. I was sitting with my phone with the microphone attached into it, holding the microphone away from my body, and I was just sitting there still. Chris was in another room laying down. He wasn't moving anything. He wasn't shutting cupboards. When I was asking questions, I was responding to the sound waves I was seeing of that weird feedback. So when I started saying, "Is anybody here?" I was seeing all the feedback, but I wasn't hearing anything. I got the feedback one other time in that first recording. Listen close for what I'm talking about when it happens this time. First impressions of the house have been, honestly, it's just really cool to be in this old house. It's so unique. The people who are restoring it and have restored it for the past 15 years have put in so much thought and time into decorations, keeping it authentic, having books, artwork, furniture. There's a lot of statues and things that are referring to other spirituality and religions. It's been so much fun. It's been so much fun to explore. After seeing this house and knowing it was the first 2-story house built by somebody rich, and then knowing my grandparents lived in a house very similar, I'm really proud of them. My grandpa was a principal and teacher. My grandma was a nurse, and they worked really hard for everything they had for their 5 children. And I do think that that house was haunted. Now we shall see what happens. Those were my recordings. What do you think? If you want to see some pictures and videos, head over to Patreon. Until next time.
That was this week's edition of Porchlight Whispers. Do you have an experience of your own to tell? We want to hear your stories. Share your experience and let your small town whispers become part of ours.
And with that, the porch light dims, but the whispers stay with us. Join us again next time when another voice steps into the light.